Metaphysician's Companion.
Good afternoon, John. It's nice to see you again on this hot day.
Yeah, hi there, Graham. It's great to be here.
So are we on number 7 now?
That's the right one, yes.
Number
7. Lucky
7.
number 7.
Oh, it's a very spiritual number 7, you know. Meant to be anyway.
Yeah, my birthday's on the 7th.
Is it? Oh, gosh, okay. I'm a number 10 person.
Yeah. Anyway,
what are we going to talk about today?
well, I was thinking that we'd have a bit of a talk about pathways. Well, what I call it pathways. You know, like if you're interested in spirituality, you go, well, what does it mean? How do I get started? You know, there's all sorts of things around.
So are we talking about how we got started or various other ways as well?
A bit of that, bit of both. You know, like what, you know, I was telling, the way I think about it is the 3 broad categories. The way that we exist in this world is in the physical, in the emotional, and in the mental. To pick some way to start developing, you pick one of these 3. And for myself, it was because I came from, like, I was really into science and, you know, the hard sciences when I was in high school and started studying engineering. And it's like, well, I started hearing about auras and things like this and spiritual ideas which I had never heard of. And it all sounded a bit, you know, ooh-ah to me. And I thought, I'm interested. I wanted to know about psychology. So I chose to start with the physical, with yoga. You know, the idea that if your body's tight, then your mind will be tight as well and start to loosen up.
Because it's caused by the stress of your mind working overtime.
Yeah, you know, like people say, oh, you know, I just push that to the back of my mind.
Yeah.
And if you push it far enough back, it gets into the body. You know, and you see people with tight shoulders because they're holding back anger or something.
So that was your trigger.
Yeah, the whole body-mind idea.
Well, mine was very different. You know, I mentioned I went into the bookshop and found the books in London and found the books, and then I think I mentioned later on about my dad going to see the clairvoyant, and also about him getting the magazine prediction and whatever.
Yeah.
And I realised the reason I went into the bookshop and picked up these books on various things is because I wanted to find some other way of looking at life, but it was ego-driven, if I'm honest about it. So it's a mental thing, really.
Yeah.
And the reason I did it was because I thought I wanted an edge when I was chatting up the women.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about, you know, things that you know, that I could do and trying to impress them.
Yeah, look, to me this is a great illustration of it doesn't matter where you start.
I agree. Yeah. As long as it works,
or
it doesn't matter.
Even your motivation. Yeah, as long as you're true to yourself, I think that's the...
Yeah, and motivation can also come from, you know, from fear and from problems and whatever to get into this. So you're looking for some discomfort, looking for some answers. Yeah, but I look back at it now and think, well, why was I doing it? You know, I remember I was doing it to impress this girlfriend of mine. So I did palmistry for her. I took a print of her palm, and I remember writing about all her life and how it was going to be, trying to impress her. So it was really quite interesting. But I sort of knew some of that stuff through my life. That was the start of it, you know, and things like tarot cards, and then I started doing psychometry with wine glasses, and so you know, there with me on this date with this woman, and I pick up her wine glass and I read her wine glass. I mean,
so at this stage, did you move from doing it by the rule book, like by the numbers, like? This means that.
Oh, no.
To getting a feel for it? Or?
No, so it's just a feeling. And it was really quite strange because quite often it was 100% right.
Yeah.
So, again, this is a way that makes your mind think, again, well, what's more to this than just this? I'm playing with this. It's just a tool I'm using or whatever for whatever purpose. And mine was probably for not a particularly good purpose,
Yeah.
depending on how you look at it. But still, yeah, and all that sort of stuff. So in a sense, mine started because I had a need in a different way to use these skills to, I suppose, to increase my ego and my self-esteem. I think that's what if I'm honest about it, that was a tool I used.
Oh yeah, like some of the things, like I got into the martial arts for self-confidence. That was the thing I was looking for there. Yeah, the thing that you're talking about, like I had a bit of a look at psychometry and tarot cards and that as well. One of the things I think that kept me back a little bit in that area is that my main interest was in the philosophy, like in the yoga philosophy. And I recall reading in the Yoga Sutras, they sort of dismisses what they call the siddhis, the psychic powers and abilities, as being a distraction, from the, really becoming centered in self.
Yeah, I can understand that because it becomes the main thing and not part of something. For me, it became a tool, and now that tool I use to help other people.
Yeah.
So it actually is expressing spirituality in a different way. So that's fine, and you can do that. But there are, this is just a way of getting into something, and it's what you do with that when you get into it afterwards. And most of us use it for their own self development or for oneself, so one gets something out of it. So that's the egotistical mind working. But on the other hand, from that comes sometimes enlightenment, and the enlightenment I got is I decided I wanted to go and do a meditation course. I was already meditating, and that was also working me. I'm moving forward, but I went and did a meditation course and courses on chakras and stuff like that with probably the woman who really triggered everything for me to move forward in a more spiritual sense rather than that, I suppose, physical in the world sense. And that opened up a lot of things for me, because then again I realized there was these energies that you could manipulate, I think it's the right word, but it's actually you use it to actually help or change those energies from them being a negative to a positive. And when you start experiencing things like that and you get a result, you realize that there's a purpose behind this. This is greater than that self-esteem and self-ego. There's something more behind this, and you can actually not only help somebody, but you're also helping yourself by doing it.
Oh yeah. One thing I remember working a bit with the energies was that there was a point where I sort of stopped, you're like, wow, this stuff is real. It's not just, waving my hands in the air, but I can really feel something. And, I found that in that regard, you have this mind-body, was where I started, that our mind and body are reflections, things, and the interface between them is the emotions, and that you can store your emotions as a thought and become like anxiety, but it also gets stored in the body, and it changes the way that your hormones and neurotransmitters and everything works. And that one of the ways of accessing what is there is feeling that energy field, the aura, because the tensions in the body, the tensions in the mind cause the energy field to stagnate or become hyperactive, and we can feel that and make changes.
Yeah, because when I did the spiritual healing stuff, I was realizing you could, because initially I started it working. The person was working on me, and it was about releasing stuff that I'd harboured in my life for a long, long time, which were buried in the etheric body. But as I don't know if anybody's listening has ever watched Bruce Lipton podcasts on, I think they're on YouTube. He's a biologist, and he talks about how we harbour energy. So it's worth looking at him because here's a scientist talking about a similar thing, and it's worth looking at. But I learned that you actually harbour this stuff within you, and
Yeah,
this
that's
stuff,
what I was talking about.
yeah, this stuff actually can affect your health overall, and it can be of negative consequences if you don't remove it. And of course, trying to remove it is another art in its own self. And this is what I was being taught, and I found that if you did remove it, life changed
Yeah,
dramatically.
the feeling, the experience of being here.
Yeah.
And, it reminds me a little bit of somebody I was talking to recently, and I was talking about the Yoga Sutras, and they said, it sounds like it's all psychology. I said, a lot of it is, because it's about ordering the physical body to be functional in this world, ordering the mental state to be functional, and ordering your emotions to be functional, so that you clarify the mind. You can see what's going on, you can feel it, and you're fully present. And that's where you start to know yourself, when you can know what's inside and show it on the outside. And so all of these disciplines are about making it easier to show self at centre.
Because as you peel those layers off, like the old Anakin story, you peel those layers off, you then get to the core of who you really are. And that is the most important part of you, because everything else has been layered on top of that who you really are. So once you've got rid of, and I'll use the word negative part of that who you are now, then it allows that inner self to shine through.
Yeah. And you see things like, I remember reading Aldous Huxley, cleansing the doors of perception, being able to, gather information, to improve the way that you look at the world. Because one of the things is that we get into a habit and we only see the things we expect to see. But if you get into the habit of being attentive, you can see more.
So what would your advice be to a listener who's just starting on this journey? What would you tell them?
Gain information. Find something that you're curious about, and I feel right now that I've left out talking about directly in the emotions, because that's a path that many people follow, and a lot of the religions, that's what they get people in on, and that is devotion. They're going, there is a greater self, and I think again from the literature, the devotion to self is the most important. Love yourself first. That way you can love others.
And of course, to love yourself, you have to unpeel the messages you've been indoctrinated with as a child and moved on.
Not even indoctrinated, because a lot of that indoctrination is done to the self. You do it yourself.
Because you accept it.
Yeah, you look at the world and go, I'm not good enough. Right. And it's sort of like it's, as a result of experience, and maybe people have told you that as well.
Yeah.
But to be able to look and go, I am worthy.
Well, I can think of something now when we're talking about how my father put me down one day that made me feel not good enough. I think I was the age of about five or six. I wasn't, maybe less. I might have been five, but I can remember it.
And did you harbour that feeling?
Oh, it's still there today to a point. But again, in a sense, I've moved past it because I know that was something that affected me. And I think also that's the other part of it, is that if you can get yourself to understand that thing that happened to you, the knowing of it, that it happened, and knowing how it changed you or refocused your mind is a very important part of the journey.
Yeah, to be able to, what they call it, take a meta position, to stand separate and observe your emotions. Like the Buddhists do with the mindfulness.
Yeah.
Just observe what you're doing, observe the feelings, and not engage with them. Not to amplify the emotions unnecessarily.
This is why I think things like, for listeners, for me, a big driving force in life is meditation. So that for me will be one of the areas I will be looking at if I was starting off on something now. But of course, in the day I started, all this stuff was the so-called occult knowledge. So if I went up into the bookshop to go and find the occult knowledge, but behind that occult knowledge is another part that is buried, which is the real truth that you are. I would say, what's the word? You are. I can't think of the word. Not invincible. That you never. Well, but basically, part of you never passes away. It stays.
Yeah.
I don't know what the right word for that is, but I've lost it today.
Okay, it's the body, the mind, the personality, what you call the ego, is transitory.
Yeah.
But there is an eternal self.
This is so good. This man opposite me.
And that's the idea.
It's one of the reasons I like John. He can analyse things and put a pin in it. Yeah, so I will be saying, the basic of the story is, anything that turns you on, try it. That's in this field. Give it a go, because it can lead to somewhere else if you want it to. So the other side of the coin is, in a sense, is to have the intent that you want to learn and develop yourself. And if you don't know how, just go to a bookshop, for example, and pick up a book that you think might help you, and just read it.
Yeah, it's a journey is one of the metaphors that's commonly used.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to have the end goal in mind, which is self-realization. Yeah, I really wish to know what I am as self in centre, and while following your curiosity in the world. And it's not. I think that anything that we start to gather information or get into, like whether it be crystals or tarot or yoga or flower arrangement, it doesn't really matter as long as you find yourself in it and do not lose yourself in it. It's sort of, and it's one of those enigmatic. Now I've lost the word. Ambiguous things is, lose yourself and find yourself. You enter in and you try the clothing on.
And it's a pathway you go on, and as you go down the pathway, there are very different ways you can go down that pathway. Yeah. You can go down to the self-satisfaction ego pathway. You can go to another pathway to find who you really are.
Yeah, and the way that you approach these things is individual choice as well. Like again from the yoga, they always sort of have 3 different levels. Mild, medium, and intense. And the one that you choose, whether you become, this is the way I want to go, and you work at it every minute of every day, that's intense. But if you've got a job and you're going out to work in the world, you can't do that. You do have to live after all. And you might choose a more moderate way of going about this. And if you're really stuck and having difficulties, have a mild way. But the important thing, as I said before, is to bear in mind that there is an end goal worth achieving.
I think that's true. I'm just going to say, for example, when I get people who want a psychic reading, then there's someone say, "Oh, tell me what my future is going to be," and I turn around and say, "Your future is what you make it. All this will do is show you the pathway you're on now. If you want to change it, you can. In fact, what this reading is about is how you can change, not what's going to happen. It's giving you the alternatives as well as what is happening if you carry on in this path."
Some of it bits the old, if only we could see ourselves as others see us.
Hmm.
You know, when you actually look at what is going on, not what your illusions of what is going on are. You know, to be able to see clearly, you know, to see yourself clearly. And I think, you know, going there, like you say, this is where you're at now.
Hmm.
And sometimes that can be a real eye-opener.
Yeah, because that point now can lead you somewhere totally different. I can often get this. I've quite often have had readings where a woman's come in and their life is about to shift to another dimension. Another dimension isn't right, but the shift in its whole direction. But they're in that transient period and can't feel it, so they're feeling uncomfortable. So it comes up will come up basically what's going on, but then the transient thing will come. It's then what you do with that transient part of your life. How do you take it? What do you do with it? That's where free choice comes in. There's always alternatives.
Yeah.
Nothing is set in stone. This is what I try and say. Nothing is whatever. Life is multi-dimensional. You just got to choose which dimension to take it into.
And important that to me is it's not what you should do, but what you can do.
Yeah.
You know, what can I do to change things now, to make discomfort go away and ease in my life?
Cool. I think we should finish it there, John. What do you reckon?
I think we've sort of outlined, not any specific path, but a general idea of, it is entirely up to you which way you choose.
I think the first thing is you have to have the intent.
Exactly.
And once you've got the intent, the rest will come.
Yeah, the intention, a distant goal, and the idea that, you'll find the way.
True. All right, thank you, everybody. I hope we enjoyed
you.
that. And don't forget, you can send your comments to us on the podcast. There's a spot where you can. And it'd be nice if you actually click to follow us. That would really help. And you can also send emails to us. So, John, you'd like to give them the email?
The email address is metphyscompanion@gmail.com. That is METPHYS companion@gmail.com.
And we look forward to any comments you have and any suggestions. And also, anything that's happened to you that has triggered stuff in your memories in these podcasts. Because we'd like to do a podcast that we talk about other people's experiences as much as ours.
Yeah, by sharing your experiences, you help yourself and others.
Well, thank you for listening.
Thank you, and hope to have you with us for the next one.
Bye for now.
Bye.